This video will help you understand how the Oregon State Department of Education uses a scoring guide to evaluate student work on problem-solving work samples. Hopefully you already have a copy of this and you can highlight or underline or write or doodle on your page as you're listening to the video. The first thing you need to know is that you need a score of 4 or higher in every area. So I'm going to circle 4 here. You want to stay on this side of the scoring guide when your work is evaluated. You want to be on the left side, not on the right side. So a 4, 5, or 6 is passing. A 3, 2, or 1 in each area is not passing. The next thing you need to know is that you'll be scored on 5 different areas. They're found on the left-hand side of your scoring guide. The first of these is making sense of the task, or the what. We want to know if you can analyze the problem and figure out what math is involved in the problem and what the question's asking. The next area is representing and solving the task. And this is your how. This is your strategy. You might want to highlight or underline strategy. And this is your plan. And often in problem solving, there are many different plans that will lead to an answer. Then comes communicating reasoning. And this is, just like it sounds, the why or the explanation part. So you're not doing math just for yourself. You're writing about your answer and explaining it to someone else that you may or may not know. Of course, we want to judge the accuracy of your work in math. So we're looking at, is the answer right? And does your work support that? And finally, mathematicians reflect and evaluate all the time. So we're going to have you go back and verify your work, check all your calculations, check your strategy or strategies. And the best way to do that is to solve the problem a second way. So next we'd like to take each of these scoring areas in turn and show you what it takes to get a good score or a passing score in each of those areas. Let's start with making sense of the task. I always start when I look at student work on work samples and problem solving, I look at a 4 as their score because that's the minimum requirement to pass that area. A 4 for making sense of the task says that the problem is changed into a math task with ideas that can work. And that simply means that a student has read the problem, understand what the problem is asking, and is able to come up with a plan to get to a correct answer. For a student to go beyond a 4, they're gonna need to be thorough in their explanation. Or a 6 might be they are connecting it to other math ideas, going beyond the scope of the problem and connecting it to a related problem or another situation in real life. Now we should also look at what if the student doesn't quite meet standard in an area. So for that first category, if the parts of the problem are changed, but not all of them are changed into ideas that can work, this might result in a score of 3. Or if only parts of the problem are understood. That word parts is going to be very important. Now we don't spend a lot of time looking at the score of 2 or 1 because that's also not passing. A 3 is relatively close and almost there. You might call that approaching. A 2 and a 1 are either beginning to understand or developing an idea, but they're not even approaching. So if you look at a 2 or a 1 in this area, it says only a small portion of the problem is understood or no understanding is shown. So the next area would be representing and solving the task, and again starting at a 4. If you use pictures, charts, words, graphs, and or numbers to solve the problem, and you do that completely, you'll get a 4. If you want a 5, you're going to have to look at this word again that we highlighted last time, thoroughly. Your answer needs to be thoroughly developed, your plan rather, and it may contain more than one step. Now to get a score of 3 in that area, it says that you would have some parts of the problem. Again, your plan only covers parts of the problem, or it has a few missing parts. A 2 or a 1 has many missing parts. The plan cannot work, or no work is shown. That would definitely be a score of a 1. Let's look at what you need for communicating reasoning. To get a score of 4 on that, you're going to need a clear path that follows a clearly identified solution. So you want to use a complete sentence that says, my answer is this. And that you have connected each idea to another so someone can follow it. Now that would be a 4. If you're not quite clear on that, and the path isn't clear and a reader has to guess what you're thinking, you might get a score of 3. Or again, that word parts, if you leave out important parts of the work, you might be at a 3. Now to get a 2 or a 1, if you just start explaining or you don't show any of your steps, you're going to be in the beginning or developing stages. On the other hand, if we go over here to a 5 and a 6 in communicating reasoning, if you are very complete or you connect your idea to something else, you can get a higher score than a 4. So next we'll look at accuracy. And in the area of accuracy, if you get the answer correct and your work matches the work, you pass with a 4. If you extend it, you might get a 5. And if you show it another way, you might get a 5 or a 6. Now on the other hand, if you have a small error, but you generally have the right idea, you might get a 3. And if your answer is not correct or not finished, you might get a 2. And if your work doesn't match, you might get a 1. If your answer and your work are not in agreement, you probably get a 1. Or if you don't answer the question at all, of course, you'd probably get a 1 as well. And finally, we're going to look at reflecting and evaluating. This category used to be called verification, and what we want you to do is go back and make sure that you can defend your answer, verify that it's accurate. You've taken a second look at your answer. So here's what's important under this scoring guide, that you write your answer in a complete sentence so we can identify where your answer is. And there's 2 things here. You take a second look at your work completely, not only your calculations, but on your plan. And that's hard to do, and this is the area that students struggle with the most. So pay careful attention to going back and reflecting and evaluating. Now, if you want a 5 or a 6, use a different way. So solve the problem one way, reflect on that, and then solve it a different way to get to the same solution. And that will increase your confidence. It will also increase your score. And if you compare the 2 areas, you might be approaching a score of a 6. Now on the other hand, if you look over here at what a 3 would be, it says the answer is not written in a complete sentence, so that complete sentence idea comes back. Or it doesn't answer the question that was asked. Or another reason to get a 3, you only checked part of the work, some but not all. Another word there we're looking at, 3, remember, is always having to do with parts of it are checked, or parts of it are completed, or parts of it are explained. A 2 or a 1, the check does not work, it's barely started, or there's no check at all. I hope this video has been helpful to you in understanding how we use the scoring guide to evaluate your problem-solving work samples. Please keep in mind that you need a score of 4, 5, or 6 in each of the 5 traits on the scoring guide. And as you prepare for your official work sample you'll be completing soon, please try to keep these in mind and attend to each of those details as you finish your work.